Hey everyone, today's cake is an Oreo red velvet cake. It's kind of a different take on your average red velvet cake, and I really think that the Oreos add a nice touch, kind of a crunchy, chocolatey touch, and I hope you love this one as much as I do. I ate way too much of this. Alright, so to get started, the first thing you're going to do is take a medium-sized mixing bowl and you're going to add 2 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour. So as I always say, make sure to measure the flour correctly by spooning it into your measuring cup and leveling off the top and then adding it to the bowl. If you just take your scoop or your measuring cup and scoop the flour in it, it sort of packs that flour down into your measuring cup, and that can make your cake really dry because it's essentially adding too much flour to the batter. Alright, so next you're going to add 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder. A half teaspoon of salt, and then just take a whisk and whisk that up really well, and then set it to the side. In another mixing bowl, add 1 cup of buttermilk. Make sure that it is near room temperature. Just set it out a little bit before you're going to bake to make sure that all of the ingredients get to room temperature. Then a half cup of sour cream. Same thing, you want it room temp. And 1 teaspoon of vinegar. And I just used the straight white distilled vinegar. 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, a half cup of vegetable oil, then you're going to add 1.5 tablespoons of gel food coloring, red gel food coloring, and you can see here I almost ran out of my food coloring and I had to kind of combine a bunch of different ones. This is a good one. It's from Chef Master. It's Christmas red. It's a really deep, nice red color. This is a Maricolor. Don't use orange. This is just what I had to show you what the bottle looks like. They have a nice super red color. This is another option. It's Satin Ice. It's a deep red color, and the other option is just a plain red color from Satin Ice. I kind of had to use a combination of all of these because I ran out of my normal Christmas red from Chef Master. So just add the gel food coloring. Make sure it's gel because if you add liquid, it's not going to get red enough, and you're going to have to add way too much liquid. And if you would rather use natural food coloring, feel free to do that too. Oh, and there's also a different type that's called no taste red food coloring, and Wilton makes a gel food coloring. You can use that as well. I didn't really find that there was a bitter taste with this red food coloring, but some people are really sensitive to that. So if you are, make sure to find a gel food coloring that is a no taste one. And you can actually just skip the red food coloring altogether if you don't even want to add it. The cake's still going to taste good. Alright, set that to the side, and in a large mixing bowl you're going to add a half cup of unsalted butter and make sure that that is room temperature. You don't want it melted and you don't want it super warm, just make sure it's just room temp. Then you're going to add 2 cups of granulated sugar, and you want to mix this up on medium-high to high speed. You want to whip it up for several minutes. Don't skip on this. You really do want to whip it up for several minutes to make sure that it kind of gets light and fluffier. Now add in 3 eggs, and you want those at room temp, and you're going to add these one at a time. So add an egg and mix only on medium for about 20 seconds after each egg. So everything needs to be at room temp so that it doesn't clump up the butter, because if the eggs are cold, it's going to make the butter cold again. It kind of clumps it up on you. So after the eggs have been added, you're going to alternately add in the dry and the liquid ingredients. So just add in about 1/3 of the dry mixture first and mix that. You just want to mix on medium and only mix until it's just combined. Be very careful not to overmix or mix too long here. So then add in half of the liquid mixture and do the same thing. Just mix on medium, not for very long, just until it looks like it is well mixed or well incorporated. So mix in the next 1/3 of the dry mixture. We're going to keep doing this until everything's mixed in. Just keep it on medium. So I know that I harp on this a lot, but if you mix scratch cake batter too long. It makes a really dense, rubbery, and dry kind of cake. And a lot of people like to mix them as long as they would a cake mix, and you just can't do that. They're two different things, and you definitely don't want to go treating them as if they're like the same thing. So just make sure that you're not mixing too long or at too high speed here. So we've added the second half of the liquid, mixed it, and now we're adding in the last third of that dry mixture and only mixing until it's just combined or well combined, and then scraping down the sides and the bottom of the bowl here. And then I usually just mix another, I don't know, 10 seconds or so after that. Now this is a fun part. You can take about, I don't know, 15 to 20 Oreos or so. You want 2 cups of coarsely chopped Oreos. So I just put them in a bag here and used a meat mallet to chop them up. You don't have to crush them up. You just want them chopped up a little coarsely. And then add that to the batter and just use a spoon or a spatula to mix those in. You don't need to turn your mixer back on. And by the way, when you chop up the Oreos, you're going to leave the filling inside, so don't take it out. Now pour the batter into 2 8-inch round cake pans. Make sure they're greased and floured, and the batter is a little thick. That's perfectly fine. And then just smooth it out and kind of make it as even as you can. Then bake in a preheated oven at 325 Fahrenheit for about 50 to 60 minutes. Ovens will vary. So once baked, put them on a cooling rack, leave them in their pans for about 10 minutes, and then after 10 minutes, turn them out of their pans and put them directly on the cooling racks to cool completely before you add any frosting to them. So now to make the frosting, we're going to add 1.5 cups of unsalted butter. Make sure that's room temp. And then use your mixer to mix it up. And by the way, you can still use a hand mixer. Don't worry about not having a stand mixer. Then add 2 8-ounce packages of cream cheese. Make sure that's room temperature too, because it's going to mix with the butter much better if it's at room temp. So mix that up until it is smooth. And by the way, if you don't like cream cheese, you don't have to make cream cheese frosting. Just make a regular buttercream and you can add Oreos to it like this one, or you can skip the Oreos altogether, up to you. And I'm adding an 1/8 teaspoon of salt to cut the sweetness a little bit, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Then 7 cups of confectioner's sugar. Add it in parts. So yes, that is a lot of confectioner's sugar. It does not make it too sweet because the whole recipe is a large recipe of frosting basically. So it's going to fill the cake. It's going to cover the outside in a couple of different layers. And then you can still have enough for piping on the top and the bottom. So if you don't want that much frosting, just half the recipe, completely half the recipe, and only make that. And that should give you enough to do a little bit of filling and one coating around the outside of the cake. So just add all of the confectioner's sugar, mix it up really well, and you can even mix it for a couple of minutes there at the end to make sure it's fluffed up. And then you're going to add 2/3 cup of crushed Oreo cookies. And I crushed the cookies for this so that it would smooth better on the outside of the cake and so that I could pipe it. If you have larger chunks of Oreo cookies in the buttercream, you're not going to be able to pipe with it. It's just going to get stuck in the piping tip. And by the way, you don't have to add the Oreos at all if you don't want to. That's totally up to you, but I liked the flavor of it. It's kind of that cookies and cream type flavor on the top of a red velvet cake, so I just really loved it. So you can see here that I'm just adding a layer of the cake down and a layer of the buttercream and then another layer of cake, and then I'm covering the outside and the top with a crumb coat, and then I kind of let it sit in the fridge for about 15 or 20 minutes or so just to firm up a little bit. The icing is a little bit softer on this one because it's made from cream cheese, so you may need to set it in the fridge for, I don't know, 15 or 20 minutes or so that it can firm up on you just a little bit. You don't want it too hard though, because you're not going to be able to spread the frosting if you chill it for too long. Okay, so in true Kara fashion, I forgot to turn the camera back on, but as you can see, I did another layer of buttercream around the outside of the cake. And I just did a little texture with my icing spatula around the sides, and I'm piping on a border all around the top here just to kind of decorate it in that sort of bake shop kind of look. And then I added Oreo cookies here. I just broke them in half and put them in between each of the little piping swirls that I did on the top of the cake. And then I just piped a border along the bottom of the cake. This was sort of a large shell border. I can't remember exactly what the number is, but if you want to know, just let me know in the comments and I'll figure out which one I used here. So decorate it however you want to. You don't have to do it like I did. It's totally up to you, and you can use any frosting on it that you like. Chocolate, vanilla, no Oreo, however you like. So I hope you really loved this one. It was super moist. I ate so much of it. It was so good, and I have to say it's one of my favorite red velvet cakes now. All right, happy cake baking, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.